Hey, good evening. Jocelyn Briggs here with Boundless Pursuits Coaching and Training. I am kicking off the very first episode of a series that I want to do, headed into 2022, the new year, called Becoming. And the premise for this series is I set this new mission, and I'm going to explain a little bit about this mission. You're going to understand it a little bit more after this first episode with my good friend who I'm waiting to join me. But let me give you a little bit of an introduction of what this series is all about. So I have set a big mission for myself in 2022 to help connect and to connect with and help more women feel comfortable and safe being them. That mission is inspired by just some success that I've come into recently over the last couple of years, and largely, oh, here she is. Approve. I'm just trying to get my guest on. I have this woman who's about to join me to thank for a lot of the success that I've been fortunate to experience over the last couple. Oh, there she is. Hi.
Hey.
I was just introducing what this series is about, and it's going to evolve over the next few weeks and into next year, but it's about helping women feel more comfortable and safe being themselves. And Jennifer Piper Kennedy, who's my guest tonight, has been, I would say, instrumental in helping me get to a place where I'm comfortable being messy. In fact, like tonight of all, like I'm sick. I have no voice. My voice is going. And my eyes are super red because I got my eyelashes done yesterday. And I would never have come on live camera like this, a couple years ago. But one of the first things I learned from Jen is done is better than perfect. And honestly, it was like the first time in my whole life that not only was it okay to get messy and be imperfect, but it was actually more productive. And I have literally spent the last 4 years stepping into imperfectionism and achieving more probably in the last 4 years than I have in my whole life, at least outside of the boundaries that I thought I could achieve. And so it's become kind of a life mantra to me. And so before I get Jen to introduce herself, I just want to tell you guys a little bit about how I met Jen. And that was online on Facebook. And one of the things that I have grown to love and appreciate the most about Jen is that she has this really unique gift of making her unicornness, her success seem achievable to anyone. And so I met her through the company that I've been with for 4 years that I had no intention of building a business with. I watched some of the videos initially that Jen did, kind of with my arms crossed. Very dubious, very skeptical. I'm very I'm so glad I'm not part of one of those things anymore. And she drew me in. And the reason she drew me in was because every time I would listen to her speak, I would think we should be by a campfire having a beer in a ball cap in track pants or flannel pajamas. Even though she would look like she does beautiful right now, like professional, she has this really amazing ability of bringing her success, making herself seem so relatable, making you believe that you can do it too, which is probably a huge reason why she's successful. And I remember meeting her in person for the first time thinking, holy crap, she's a big deal. Like, she's not the person drinking beer by the campfire in her flannel pajamas. Like, she's a big deal. When I meet her, I was so nervous. And the second she opened the door to that hotel room where I met her, she was the exact same as on the videos, the exact same, you guys. And I think we could probably all agree that that's a rare thing, that you meet somebody in life that impacts you so tremendously online or from afar, that in real person, they're the exact same person. And so I invited Jen to be my very first guest because Jen has, over the last 4 years since I've met her, achieved enormous, unbelievable success herself, and somehow made all of us who work with her believe that we can do the same thing. And so I wanted her to come on as we kick off this series because we're headed into a new year and we're all sort of thinking about what we want to do next year. And I want you to think bigger. I want Jen to bring her story to us to inspire you to take your goals and think bigger, because she has given me that gift, and I wanted to give that to everybody that's watching as well. So Jen, give yourself a little bit better introduction than I did. And tell us a little bit about your background.
I love it. I will always be grateful that I was your first guest. So for all of you watching, welcome. I'm in Kamloops, BC, which is probably a lot snowier than where you are right now. We've got like this huge dump of snow, and we haven't yet. And so I'll just say, when I first met Jocelyn online, I was immediately drawn to her because of her relatability, right? She's the same. And I think that's also why you connect sometimes. And I remember thinking, oh, she's got 3 boys as well, plus a bonus daughter. And she play baseball, and she likes to drink wine, and she seems really fun to hang out with, except I just don't want to run with her. That's all I can think about. But I think that that's key, right? I think that that's key. And I think sometimes people get fooled into like making these online personalities that you're all that in a bag of chips, when really your true self is your superpower, right? So my background, I'm a mom. I have 3 teenage boys. They're now 19, 21, and 16. I actually have a kinesiology degree. I went to school I wanted to be a physiotherapist. And I was a little overachiever. I grew up in a really small town, and always the top of my class. And that year, when I actually tried to get into physiotherapy, I graduated number 4 in my class for kinesiology, and I couldn't get into physio school. And I remember it like devastated me. Like, it's the first time in my life that I kind of like tried and failed, and it was devastating to me. And they were like, well, you should apply for med school. You'll get in there because there's more spots. And with my marks, I'm like, yeah, no, I don't want to be a doctor. So that turned into like a plan B, right? So I started just working in with a PTOT, and then opened to businesses. And that's sort of where I decided, like, that's where I found my passion. So my ex-husband and I had businesses. And so for me, I kind of fell into entrepreneurship. It wasn't something that my family did. We grew up in a mill town, logging, moved around. And I didn't really have any mentors or anything that did that. So I kind of fell into it. But, if you have to pay your mortgage with your business, you learn really fast. And so I loved being an entrepreneur. Like, I loved it. And I loved creating, back then, advertising campaigns used to be like in flyers that you'd mail out. Like, I keep thinking every day, I'm like, okay, we're so blessed. This is free. Facebook is free, you guys. Like, I used to spend thousands of dollars to send out campaigns. So that's kind of how I got started, or that's my background. And then, for me, I gotta say, like, I was never looking for this. And I think that so many people who fall into this industry, it's the same thing, right? Like Jocelyn, the same thing. Like maybe more, I would say more so now. People are looking for a side thing, looking for an online business, but I fell into it. And it was purely because I had kids. And having those 3 boys in 5 years, like close together, and then I'm setting up a new thing, and it doesn't stand very well. And so having the boys close together, my parents tapped out with babysitting after child number 3, and I had to put them in daycare. And for me, I just remember, like, we all have that day, and my day was 3 boys. They were like 7, 5, and 2, so chaos. Getting them out the door to daycare, and I was yelling at them because they weren't getting their shoes on. They were dawdling, la, 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 la. I had to open the store, and I dropped them off, went to the store, and I kind of sat there, and I was like, ugh, like, that's not at all what I thought being a mom was going to be, or being an entrepreneur was going to be. Like, it was like the opposite, and I just felt really crappy. And I phoned a girlfriend of mine, Christine, who was a teacher, and she had fallen into the direct sales industry. And, talked to me about it, but I wasn't really interested. But that moment, phoning her was kind of my pivotal point of why I chose to do this. And it was a morning of, again, yelling at the kids, thinking like, this isn't the mom I want to be. I loved being an entrepreneur, and I loved my kids, but I didn't want to be away from them all the time. So that's how I fell into it.
So just to recap, so Jen's a mom of 3 boys, now teenager, small town girl, hence the campfire, somehow ball cap and campfire. Even when she's dressed in like luxury everything, I'm like ball cap and campfire and beer or glass of wine, I guess.
Yeah.
So small town, like highly educated, top of your class. And then traditional business owner. So you kind of you fell into, and I feel like so many of us fall into network marketing. And I just want to preface, because we'll touch a bit on this, but network marketing is changing too, and the company that we're with is pioneering almost like a new chapter of network marketing. But I'm going to say network marketing because that's what people know. So you got into network marketing because you needed a change, which is, I think, and I think, excuse me, so many of us are maybe like underwhelmed by what the life was promised, right? Like, go to school, like get your education, get a job, have your kids, and somehow we all come up against this like really underwhelming moment and desire for change. And so yours was, you know, having three small boys, being a mom, being a really busy, like, how many businesses did you have then? Because I know you've had 3. Yeah, because she doesn't do anything small, you guys. Like, she's got more energy than anybody I've ever seen, like, honestly. But because one of the things that I know my audience has grown to appreciate about me, and so I really want to bring a touch of this into every video. What was your honest thought about network marketing prior to that moment? Like, until, like, before getting to that moment, what did you actually think about it prior to that?
Well, okay, so first off, I didn't even really know what it was, because again, I grew up in a small town, you guys, and if you think about it, probably my only exposure would have been the Avon lady, which I don't think we knew that was network marketing then, or the Tupperware lady, right? So, and they were like older women that did this. So my friend Christine, for 1 year prior to me phoning her, so that morning I phoned her. Okay, so first she tried for a year. She tried for a year to get me to look at this, because she's like, you're in sales, you'd be so good at this. And like, what I thought about it was, that is for bored housewives. Why in the world would she be doing that as a teacher? Like, you guys, when for any of you who are watching, if you look down on it, that was me. Like, I remember thinking, I have a degree, why would I do this? I have 3 real businesses that, if I was to step in the store and look out on my floor, we have hundreds of thousands of dollars just sitting there in inventory all the time. But a real business in my mind was somewhat better than that. And so, number one, I didn't really know and understand what it was. I just heard all the people like, oh, it's this pyramid scheme, blah, blah, blah. You know, you buy into the narrative. Yep. I didn't know. I didn't research it. But also, I had never really ever saw anyone with any success. And so for that year, when Christine talked to me again, I just kept thinking, she's silly, and why would she do this? She's a teacher. I remember I clearly, like, and I'm not no dummy, right? So, hey, Rita. So she would, every so often, she'd be like, oh, I went on the sub list. I was like, oh, her little makeup gig might be doing all right now, because she's actually on the sub list. And in my head, I would do the math. Like, okay, she has to be making this much to do that. But that morning, I phoned her to complain. Like, that's what it was. My phone call wasn't to like save me. My phone call was to complain about my crappy morning and putting the kids in daycare and hoping that she would sit there and commiserate with me. Like, that's what I wanted. And when I phoned her, she was on the deck with her husband at 10 a.m. drinking coffee in their bathrobes. And that was the final moment that I think I needed that for me to actually go, okay, this has to be real. And she had quit her job. So like, all of those things. So it took for me, again, to overcome those negative ideas of what this was, because I had just never seen it, right? So I had to overcome all of that with crappy morning, yelling at my kids, feeling massive mom guilt, sitting in my business thinking like, what in the world am I doing? This is all I do. And remember, if any of you are business owners, you can maybe relate and pop it in the chat. Like, that's like 7 days a week. Like, we didn't take holidays. There was no time freedom. We were tied to those stores. So my idea of it wasn't exactly what, you know, I had grown up thinking it would, you know, what an entrepreneur does. So all of that had to happen, I think, for me to be open to it. But that was the moment when I heard her say that she had quit her job. I was like, my brain did the math, and I know what a teacher makes. And for her to quit it, I know she had to be making that much or more. And her husband's having coffee with her at 10 a.m. Like, so my brain is like firing with the math, right? So I think for any of you who are watching who think the same thing, I think number one, that's normal, because I think it's less common than it was when I started 14 years ago. Like, more and more and more people every year. I'm just like, yay, our industry's getting more respect. Our profession's gaining more respect because number one, people are doing it better because there's always that. And number two, people are looking for something that they can do online and build a life around that versus being forced to, you know, kind of do what you have to do. So yeah, so if you're listening, that was me. I was that girl 100% in 1 year. And all I keep thinking is, man, if only I would have like been open to it a year prior, like how much further ahead I'd be.
Yeah, and you can't change that because you're not open till you're open.
No.
Right? You almost need that thing to happen. And this wasn't on our list of questions, but I'm just curious because I know for me, like literally it's taken me till really this last couple of years because I used to struggle with, I was that housewife,
Yes.
but you know, I was smart. I didn't have a degree because I dropped out of university, but I knew I was worthy of a degree. So, and I knew I should have had a degree. And to me, this was beneath me,
Yes.
like beneath what I should be doing. And I felt like it was kind of like a glaring like beacon, like she's doing that because she didn't finish school and that's all she can do. And she's a stay-at-home mom. And so, and it took me years to kind of get over that. But so how long did it take you? Because I can't imagine. I mean, I talk to business owners, right? And we get so, not just business owners, but fitness professionals, any profession, any of us, we get stuck in what we think the expectations are of us until we learn, like done is better than perfect. And there's another way. Like how long, once you decided to do it, did it take you
to overcome
that? Yeah.
So when I started again, when I finally made the decision, I went all in. Like there was no, you know, all in. So I'd work at my store every day and prep dinner for the kids. And then back then that was parties, right? I did parties. Yeah. So I'd do 2 to 3 a week. And you guys, I would drive sometimes. My maximum drive time would be 2 hours one way. So sometimes it'd be 2 hours, do the party, come home after working all day. But all I knew was they have a formula. You do this twice a week, you know, and in my head, I was like, I just want to get to where this replaces my income at the store and I can be home. So for me, when that happened, then I had a little bit more belief, but I still struggled a little bit with those stores because we still had them were my real business and this was like my other thing. And I think that once I hit the 6-figure income mark, that for me was like,
oh yeah,
now you guys can't say anything, right? Like now you can't say anything because it also, a lot of times you have to overcome that because of other people's thoughts and beliefs, right? And so that was like so I only was like a couple months in, my first full year, I did that. And for me, that was huge because again, that validated my decision because I'm like, okay, I'm making more. I'm at home with my kids. This is what I wanted.
So just there's a little nugget in all of that I'm just going to pull out for those of you who are looking for success tips. And that is, and Jen is successful. I wish we could tell the world like just how successful, but we can't. But she just trust me when I say, she made a decision. Like successful people decide fast and they don't second guess their decisions. Like one of the key differences between people who are successful and not are successful people decide very quickly and they don't second guess. They figure it out from there, right? And so like that's just an amazing nugget that you just said. So fast track a bit. So this was a different company you're with that you initially got into our industry with. What happened? Why aren't you with that company anymore?
Well, you know, this, and again, now it's the biggest blessing of my life, but July 23rd, 2017, now at this point, I went through a divorce. I was a single mom. I had moved, the kids and I had moved like just half an hour away, but big mortgage, all by myself, big girl mortgage, big girl life. You know, I did well.
On your network marketing.
Yes.
Only
my network marketing business. I didn't. So
supporting 3 kids as a single mom.
And no child support, no support whatsoever, no support. So, which I'm proud of it, you know, made me a little angry at times, but I'm proud of it. So, now all of that is happening. My kids are in high level sports. It's an expensive life, you know, even, and we weren't like, I wouldn't say we're living high, but it was expensive. Any parents know this, like, oh my gosh. And so July 23rd, on a phone call, and the company announces they're closing. And they basically we had no notice, and there was no signs. Like, everyone's like, well, you should have, I'm like, no, typically when that happens, they're not shipping product, they're not paying paychecks. Like, all systems were go. It was kind of this big, shock. And so now I have a mortgage, I have these kids, I have this life that, again, I've built around this. And I remember, like, sitting down, it was the scariest day of my life. Like, I remember being more, like, physically ill than the divorce, because I just thought, what am I going to do? Right? Like, what am I going to do? And so, and then, because you're kind of almost like, well, if that closed, I could do something else, and that might close too, right? Because it's sort of, when you're partnered with a company, some of it is out of your control, and, because they make choices, right? And so as an entrepreneur, you always have to react and adapt to everything. But there was a time where I was like, maybe I should just, and at the time I was actually coaching social media with the old company to some of the consultants. And I was like, well, maybe I should just do that. I'll be social media manager. And then I kind of looked at my life, and I was like, hey, there's no way. Like, I was at hockey practices at 4:30 in the morning, at nighttime, back to back to back, driving my kids everywhere after school. Like, I was like, how will I do any real job? And what happens is, when that was 10 years of me working for myself, you get a little bit spoiled with your time. Like, it's not easy. It never is easy. Like, you're busy, you juggle, but you still are in control of your time. So you can build your time around whatever you need to. And so I remember thinking that. And then my youngest at the time, I sat the boys down. I'm like, okay, the gravy train is over. Mama's not spending a cent on anything from here on out, like, till I get this, I got to figure this out. And they were kind of like, well, what are you going to do? And my youngest said to me, I said, maybe I'll be a social media manager. And he stopped. He's like, Mom, you love your team though. And I was like, I do. And, like, I think I started crying, and I'm like, I do. Like, that was everything for me. So I had been following a company, and I think everything happens I've been following this company for the past 2 years, just watching them and actually taking some of their ideas to my old company that they never implemented, sadly, because they were again, the company we're with, Joss and I, they're so far ahead then, like 4.5 years ago, of anyone else. And I just kept thinking, like, that would be good, and that would be good, and that would be good. And so I had already kind of followed them, but they weren't in Canada yet. But I got a direct invite to go to Utah, and I said, can I bring some of my friends? And I said, yep. if you believe in them, bring them. So, it was very emotional. I got people on a Zoom at midnight some of their time, and I'm like, hey, do you guys want to fly to Utah? And this is a Thursday night, you guys. The company closed that morning. And they're like, what and when? And I'm like, Sunday. I'm like, what else do we got to do? Right? So we left. We went. We, flew into Utah, sat down, and in that room that day, I heard, the vice president talk about where they were going, and it was just sort of getting started. And all I could think of was that this is a fit, and I want to be a part of this. Like, I want to be a part of this. And so that's kind of how I found this company. I will say I did cross all my T's and dot the I's by looking at other companies. Like, I wouldn't have just not looked, even though I kind of was thinking this is the one. I still thought you gotta make sure that you're smart about this. And so I looked at other compensation plans. I looked at other product lines. I looked at everything, and nothing else really fit the bill for a product that I knew that people it would help people first off, and they would always use it, because if you don't have a product, you don't have a business, or a service, I guess. I liked that. I liked that the company was still, like, just getting going with their growth, and I could be a part of that. I love that, actually. Like, I was like, I will help them grow. And I loved that they were so open to kind of, like, discussing with us what we needed and helping us, really, because we were broken. Like, we were broken, sad, crying all day, and they were really willing to kind of partner and figure out what we needed that would help us best, because it was a completely different model. It was completely different everything. So it kind of ticked all the boxes, but the biggest thing is I just knew that anyone could win here. And that for me was everything, because it wasn't happening in our old company. It just wasn't. Like, no one was winning. And so I was like, okay, everyone can win here. That's everything, right? So.
Yeah, and I've, if you look at just in general that are magical, one of, I think, the things they do is they make people feel like family, right? Like Starbucks, you can tell that their employees feel like family there because of the way they show up, right? And that's how I've always felt since I started with this company as well, with your team, with the company. Excuse me. Oh my gosh. So pivot for a second. So you stayed in the industry. I get it. Like I have businesses as well, and I have more appreciation now for the simplicity of this as an entrepreneur. Like I don't want to do all that back end stuff.
No.
And most entrepreneurs don't. Most entrepreneurs want a piece in the creative side. You know, they want to serve the customers. They want to work with the people. They want to work with the ideas. They don't want to work with the back end detail stuff, right? Like most entrepreneurs don't. So I get it. Like you stayed in so you could control your life, and you chose the company based on, like, you kind of shared why. And it's funny because 4 years ago we couldn't really see. I don't know if you could see what, like, you can but you can't, like you see it but you can't. And
I would
it's
say
surreal
like
what's happening.
I could picture what they were saying, and I mean, in my old company, it had a big growth spurt, and I came in at the end of it. So, you know, I was like, okay, they did it without the product and the systems, and you can see this sometimes in other companies. So I was like, I believe that this has the potential to really be big. It hadn't even launched in Canada yet, and that was a big deal. And I remember seeing that, but I honestly don't think I could have ever dreamt what was happening today. Like,
it's like we couldn't have, none of us could have seen what Amazon was going to be that Amazon is today, right? Even if you knew the plan, like, until it's, and that's what I feel like this is like being a part of. Like, it's like, wouldn't you love to have known, like, a few years ago, like, what Amazon was going to be, when everybody was like, they're right? And that's kind of the cusp, and that's the magic of where we're at right now with this company. And it only gets better, and we only continue to separate ourselves from the world, really, right? Everybody, because we're not competing with our industry, we're competing globally. And it's pretty exciting. So what do you think is important for people to have or do or bring to be successful? Because you said this is a place where everybody wins. So what should, if somebody wants to win here, what should they kind of do their self-audit? Do I have this, and this?
Well, and it's such a good question. And I think that winning for everyone is different. So I think that they have to know what that is, first off. Like, what is a win? Is it, you know, some people it's income, like X amount of dollars a month, and that's what they want. For some people, like the red personalities, like me, it's achievement and achievement and achievement. And, you know, now it's turning into impact, right? Like, how many more people can I help do what I did? And so I think that once you have that clear in your head, so first off, you have to have that clear in your head, what you actually want, what your goal, what your definition of winning looks like for you. But then after that, like I say it over and over again, I think that my superpower is I'm not an overthinker. I actually would be an underthinker. I just tend to do it and figure it out as I go, which turns around. It's hard to coach that way, which is why I love systems and coaching through systems. But I think that when you make that decision, you have to, like, go all in no matter what. So, you know, that means working day and night, if that's what it is. And again, in the beginning, you guys, I was working full time. In the beginning here with this company, I just, like, I look back at it, I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't even remember sleeping for the first 90 days. I was back and forth to Utah once a week. Like, my schedule was crazy. Eating, I remember losing weight, probably the only time I've ever lost weight. But I went all in. Like, it was like there was no other option. So it wasn't like, well, if I get a customer, I'll stay. If I get, you know, someone else that wants to do this, maybe then I'll do it. Like, I knew no matter what, even if no one else came with me, and I said that. My friend Anya always says that, which I don't remember saying it, but she's like, you sat at the table and you said, you guys, I'm doing this. Like, you don't have to do it with me, and I love you no matter what, but I'm doing this no matter what, with or without you, kind of thing. And they were like, dang, right? So it was just that I just went all in. So I think that is everything. And your all in is going to look like everyone's looks slightly different depending on what your life is like. But if you have big goals, your all-in has to be a little bit bigger, right? It can't just be like, oh, I'm going to do 10 minutes a day and expect that I'm going to build a big business. So I think that's everything. Consistency. I am so dang consistent no matter what. Like, I touch my business every single day, no matter what. And then I think the ability to, again, get messy and go first. I was doing Zooms for like 500 people in the first week of coming here to talk to them about a comp plan that I truly didn't understand. I was just winging it. I was, I've been in so many situations sort of thrust into, like, I remember one of the very first meetings, they're like, okay, go introduce this person that I just referenced that I'd never met. Go introduce them and talk about the product. And I'm like, oh, sweet mother, I don't know, and then you're just like thrown into the fire. But I think that the ability to like not think about it too much and just go figure it out is everything, because you waste so much time trying to figure things out, and it might not be the right plan anyway. So why not jump in, get messy, do it, again, and imperfect, like Jocelyn said in the beginning, is everything. Like, I think probably more people are attracted to that because I'm not perfect and I screw up all the time, right? So it's like, okay, well, she's real. And so I think that's so all in, definitely being consistent, definitely not being afraid to go first and just try things and get a little messy. And then I will say, like, for us to kind of create the team that we've created, it was culture. It was culture 100%. I had a vision of what I wanted our team to look like, and what I wanted, I wanted people like Jocelyn who love freely everyone on the team, who coach, who guide. Like, I wanted that team that just everyone helped everyone felt valued, everyone felt recognized, everyone felt good, no matter if they had big goals or small goals. So that, because a small goal is really great too if they're achieving it, right? So I think that those would be the big things for success. And I just never quit. Like, it's never been an option. Even, and I'll tell you, it wasn't just like, it was like boom in the beginning, and then it was like a crash and burn 6 months later, like crash and burn. And I had to redo and figure things out again. And then it was a slow sort of rise, and then again. And then the last 18 months has been just, again, a rocket ship. But that is a result of doing all the activity leading up to it, systems in place, creating systems, all of that. So, it's never, and again, I never quit in those moments or thought about it. It was like, okay, we're here, this is what we're doing, let's just lean in. So that would be kind of my biggest tips.
Like, I love all four of those, because they feed into the exact mission of what the series is about, right? I would say the series is about helping women find a place to be comfortable and safe being themselves, right? And the power in what you said is, number one, nobody can make decisions for you. That is something I learned this year, and and so many of us ask everybody, what do you think? Should I do this, right? I learned this past year not to ask anybody, like not even my husband, unless it's like pertains to something, but like that impacts him. But he doesn't know what I think, what I want, right? Like, so make your decision, be consistent, and consistent just means doing something. I have no idea why I have this background, but be consistent just means do something every single day instead of nothing. And never quit. Make the decision and never quit. So I love that. So I love how it came full circle right back to the mission. And this is why I found a home here, because it feeds my soul in a way that, and then it gives me the freedom to turn around and do that for other women. So in wrapping up, excuse me, my goodness. See, I would never have done this a year ago. I'm like coughing and hacking.
Just shows grit, Jocelyn. You're doing it. It's grit.
Yeah, Jen set me free. She said it's okay. It's okay to be messy. And honestly, the lesson that I've learned from this and the freedom is that people do love you more when you can just be yourself. Let them see your bloodshot eyes. Let them see, your thick, raspy voice. It doesn't matter. So wrapping up, what is wealth to you?
Oh, that's such a good question. So I will say, growing up in a small town, middle class small town, you really didn't see wealth as financial wealth, right? Like when that sort of end of it. And so I think of wealth as like an abundance of many things, like an abundance, right? So you might have financial wealth, which, you know, is pretty amazing. And that, the more money that you make, the more people that you can impact. You can impact your family generationally. Like for me now, I'm like, okay, well, I would like my children, my boys, to hopefully learn and, you know, be able to take some of the lessons I've learned and create generational wealth for their families. And again, I see that on our own team. You know, I'm seeing people that, you know, no one in their family has ever been to university and their kids are the first ones because of this business. And like, there's so many stories like that. So I think that abundance financially, abundance like with your time and being able to choose your time. Because I think that a lot of people have this like misconception that we don't work. And I'm like, I work my face off all the time, right? But it doesn't feel like it. Like, it's not like when I jump on a team training on Saturday morning, I'm like, oh, this sucks. I got to do this on a Saturday. It's like, yeah, I get to go do this, right? Yeah. So I think that abundance of time, abundance of like your generosity, what you're able to do with time and the finances, and then just like the abundance of like life, like just life in general, being able to you know, jump on a plane if you want to jump on a plane, go to the beach. You know, I bought a place out at the lake with an RV, and I have a lake lot now. Like that to me is that abundance where I'm able to sort of be able to do things that I wouldn't normally ever have done. And, you know, just enjoy it, like enjoy it.
It's choice, right?
Choice.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate you coming on and kicking off this series. And thank you all for joining and watching. You can find Jen on all kinds of social media platforms, so go give her a follow. She's super fun and inspirational, and she will speak to you like she spoke to me, I'm sure. So thank you so much.
I love it. Thanks for having me on, and I loved reading everyone's comments. So thanks for putting your words in there. We love you guys. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.